Blitzscaling. Book by Reid, Hoffman. Chapter 2. What makes blitzscaling unique? The definition of blitzscaling, as we discussed in the previous chapter, might sound overly simplistic. After all, the idea of proportional and sustainable growth sounds like a pretty basic business concept. Shouldn't everybody have figured that out by now? And if so, why isn't every company succeeding at the same rate as Apple or Amazon? Well, that's because there's a little more to blitzscaling, and it starts with a significant amount of risk. Most people who launch new startups aren't big fans of risk. As a general rule, everybody wants stable, successful companies that can chart a surefire path to profit. Risk implies the possibility of losing your funding, failing to sell your product, or the chance that you won't succeed with your target market. And none of those sound like fun possibilities. But where most strategies eschew or try to avoid risk altogether, blitzscaling embraces it. And that's exactly what distinguishes blitzscaling from other business models. So, what does it look like in action? Well, let's return to our earlier example of the coffee shop. Let's say that you're based in Canada and you are thriving in your hometown of Ontario. Since your coffee shop opened, you've established multiple chains throughout Ontario and through Canada as a whole. And now that you have a chain of thriving businesses, you want to expand your empire and set up shop in different countries like the US and UK. A more traditional model might suggest that you start off with one coffee shop in one country and wait a year or two to see how it performs before you go from there. But a blitzscaling model operates in precisely the opposite fashion. To consider how that works in practice, let's take a look at the business model of Airbnb. Airbnb is one of those companies that falls in the same category as Amazon, Apple, and Google, in that it skyrocketed to rapid and unprecedented success. And they faced a situation exactly like the one depicted in our hypothetical coffee shop example. Originally based in the US, Airbnb was thriving when it began to consider expanding to an international market. And rather than following a more traditional model, within just a year of their decision to expand, they had soared to a record-breaking 9 international offices between 2011 and 2012. The inherent risk of this choice is plain to see, and most people wouldn't advise it. But that's exactly what makes blitzscaling so effective. The tremendous reward that comes with the danger of taking a risk. And in Airbnb's case, it paid off. By rushing ahead, they were able to beat a German competitor called Wimdu, which was rapidly trying to eclipse their success. In this case, taking a risk made all the difference because it allowed them to beat Wimdu to the punch. If they'd waited and taken the sensible option, they would have been too late. But by setting up in Wimdu's home turf and capitalizing on the appeal of an international expansion, Airbnb was able to put Wimdu out of business and reclaim their unparalleled hold on the hospitality industry.